Sharon the Warp Spinster here. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for spending part of your day with me today. We have been working on the knit purl concept, and we've done a variety of things over, I think, 3 weeks maybe? Done various things with the knit, and many of which I like, so more about those at some point in the future. And then we also did some things with the purl concept, which is the loop looking stitch in knitting. And I ended up liking this the best rather than doing freeform curves or a bias strip applique on. It was just much more fun to do this. So we explored that some more last time and ended up doing this. With this wide stripe background, I decided that I could use a really bold, colorful print on this. And I generally like it. I think that there's too much of that background is pretty overpowering because it's so large. So then I talked about adding some circles on because, you know, circles and me. If we find a black circle here, I know I have one. Here we go. A smaller one. And talked about doing some circles, which would act as, I don't know, they could be beads or pearls, as we called it. P-E-A-R-L as opposed to P-U-R-L. And, okay, possibly, or boucle, which is a nubby yarn with slubs in it. And it's okay, I kind of like it. This ends up looking like a necklace with pearls to me, which is all right. It doesn't have to follow the inspiration. It doesn't have to end up being a purl stitch at all. So that has some possibilities in a separate sort of design. But I did have some suggestions from a couple of you. Michelle suggested using like a yellow and a light orange so that it would contrast better with both the background and this darker pink in here, which is, of course, the largest portion of the fabric is that pink. So in some ways I like this black circle. It may be too big, but I kind of like it because it ties in the background to this piece a little more. So different colors for circles and different sizes, frankly, is an option. And do I want 3 because 3 or maybe just 1 on this size piece, and maybe in a yellow or a light orange. I'm not sure I have a light orange, but I'll scrounge around a little bit. And then Raymond suggested maybe having the circles coming from behind, so it's like a sunrise or a sunset, and I think that's kind of an interesting idea. So we might try that today. I also have a couple other things I want to do. I think last time I mentioned maybe padding this a little bit so that it's more dimensional and looks more like some yarn coming out. So I'd like to give that a try. And then I also I want to try something where it's basically straight stitches across and spaced further apart, so it's as if a stitch has dropped, and you get a ladder effect then when you drop stitches, and that it starts dropping further down in the piece of knitted fabric. So I'd kind of like to try that. Did we try that last time? I want to make sure things don't look like eyeballs. That looks kind of like a Buckeye candy to me, or cookie. Wrong colors, but hey. All right, so we have several things to try today on the purl side of things, and I also want to do an update on a couple of things and ask your input on something. So hopefully we've got a full, fun day here. First off, let's try some circles with different colors. I know I can find a yellow. I'm going to go scrounge for an orange and see what I can find. We'll see how it looks. And I did find a yellow that I think matches pretty well, and actually an orange that's not bad. I also pulled this out just because if it needed something, a little pop of brighter, you know, I'm going to bring things in here a little bit, I think, then that might be a possibility, but I think it's too bright, and I'm not sure we need another stripe in there. So I have this orange and a yellow, and of course I also have a pink here. And I do like it with 3, partly because this piece still shines, but these begin to mask some of the background. So it becomes more of a background instead of an in-your-face kind of design element. And that's what I would like to see on this piece. So I actually like that quite well. I'm also thinking, and we'll get to the suggestion, Raymond's suggestion of putting these under these, but I'm also thinking that I've been designing some modern abstract quilts that are inspired by architectural features or photographs of cities. And in the process, and they end up looking, of course, nothing like the streetscape in the end, but it's a starting point, and I'll talk more about that on another video. But what I'm learning is that I really like to have circles as a part of the backdrop, not the background, but a backdrop to maybe focus a little bit onto an area or to balance out an area. So I'm wondering if I want to try doing this with, say, a circle this size coming up from behind, as Raymond suggested. But I think I also want to try one where I have a circle as a, not background exactly, but a backdrop, I guess I will call it. So this I like, but let's now try, I cut a couple more pieces here. So let's now try it with, should I do a, oh, gonna have to come out again, sorry. Let's try it with one of these. I don't know if I want it to be a vertical stripe or a horizontal. Of course, that one's horizontal. This one I think I want to leave for the ladder or the drop stitch piece. So let's use this as the background, and I will cut some more. Let's use this same fabric so that we have a good comparison with this one. And of course the stitches are going to be wider here. Let me think about this, because that may be, yeah, I don't think I'll have really enough room for 2 stitches here and do it justice. So we shall do this, or I shall go and cut another piece. There's the answer. So I thankfully have more of this fabric that I can cut. Let me grab my glove. And I did cut another piece that's a little bit longer, almost the same length as this piece. And this will be plenty wide, but that's all right. And I want to cut just kind of a lovely deep curve here. Doesn't have to be even. Should be on camera though. And then, oh, it's not doing my shoulder any good. There we are. So there's a piece. And in fact, from this piece, I can probably cut another one so that I'm not wasting this in any way, shape, or form. Now, I do actually have some invisible thread in my machine at the moment, so I might do that rather than the white that I did with this one. But before we stitch it, let's take a look at what if we put these behind And of course, we wouldn't have to do them all coming from behind. There could be some in front. We can have different amounts. I think if it's coming from behind, I might need the brighter color, so like the bright pink. In this one, we've even got a little bit of bright green coming through here. I think these will stand out better against the striped background. The pastels, I think really kind of need this to help define them. So I'm going to try cutting another larger pink. And then, because I do like the idea of some of them coming from behind and some on top. So let me do a larger pink, if I can find that pink or a similar pink, to put a larger one behind, and then maybe smaller ones of these. I don't want them all to be the same size. And then I also want to cut a larger circle of, say, this print to use as a backdrop. So we'll have a backdrop, a background, and then our focus. I'm back with a larger pink circle, which I think I want to tuck in up here because I've got some more visual space up here to fill. So I'll tuck that in there, and I could put another pink one down here and maybe a yellow one in between. I don't want those all to line up though. So that we have an arrangement, something like that, which is nice. It gives a variety where I don't just have circles stuck on top. Although I like that, I think it's nice to have that variety there. This again is the same size, and I know I don't want that. I would like some different sizes there. So I cut, excuse me, I could cut this smaller and try that here, but it's kind of nice to have that pink as a repetition that ties it together. Getting toward a seam allowance down there, aren't I? Pull this up a bit more. So I kind of like that. This I would want to be smaller, but maybe I will cut a smaller circle of that to try. And that would add a little interest if I did a double up on the circles. I don't know about you, let me know, but this definitely draws my eye down there and away from everything else. So I'm not sure that's the way I want to go. This at least draws it to the middle, which might be okay. And I could probably get away with things if I did say a whole range of these or a number of blocks, and then every once in a while I had doubled circles on it. That's a possibility. But let me cut a little smaller one of these, one that's this size, and see how that works. I am awash in circles, which is quite fine with me, I have to say. All right, I have found a light green that's not bad, and then a bright green, which is not quite right, but will serve our purpose, I think. So if I do just a little spark, say, of green or of a bright green, let's remove this for the moment. Then that ties that in, but I'm wondering if I don't want to reverse this so that this pulls it around. That might be a little much, draws the eye too much. So how about the lighter green? Or maybe I want to draw the eye there. what if I do, say that, nope, 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 nopey nope. Noopity nope, nope, nope. No, don't I have a, yes, I do have a small one of these. No, that orange draws the eye too much. That's not bad. This pink is going to draw the eye. I think that's all right, as long as in other blocks and pieces I'm spreading that joy around and doing more pink. That's probably too much, but what if we do the small pink on top of that yellow? I think if I did that, I would want to just keep going. Would I, with that color scheme? What do you think? I might, of course I don't have a small yellow, but let's go with, let's put this over here, this up there, and that maybe more toward the middle. This just gets lost in that orange, so I need to have it somewhere that there would be more contrast, which I don't really have in that piece, but you can see that it stands out more if it's against pink on this piece. So the colors I use may be quite heavily dependent on the dominant colors in the strip in particular. So I am liking having some tucked under. I don't know that I would want them all tucked under, but I do like some tucking going on. And if we tucked under a green one here, for some reason I don't want a second one tucked on here. I don't know why. I don't know what to tell you. And again, we could double it up if on other blocks I was also doubling it up. So, thank you, Michelle, for the different color suggestion, and Raymond for the tuck. And now I have a piece of this for a backdrop, and I didn't have a wide enough strip to cut a full circle, but that's all right because I don't want a full circle. And what if I have this circle? Oof, might work with a yellow, say, but I don't think it's going to do it with that orange. Again, I've got so much orange here that maybe a yellow one would work there. I don't really dislike the idea of having that partial circle there, but it just blends in too much. So I think I'm going to cut a large yellow circle, and let's try that out. Even more circles, yay! Well, that's definitely a better choice, isn't it? At least for this particular slice of that fabric. So that's a possibility. I think I still want a piece of something there. Obviously not yellow. And I did a full circle this time, so we can actually do a full circle. So this will mask much more of the background if I feel a need to do that. I think I want this sticking out some more though. If it's going to be behind these pieces, then that may be too much. Not sure how much I like that. Definitely want something there though. There's not much contrast on that. So what if I put this here and then a little one there? But then those are lined up and I don't want anything in a straight or vertical line. I want things to move around. Again, this is against an orange. This really is a predominantly orange couple of strips, isn't it? I do kind of like that green in there. Maybe if I tuck this under far enough here so it's closer to the pink, that would work. I was going to have this pink tucked under, wasn't I? I think my design brain is kind of a hot mess today. So that's a possibility. I would have to really play with how much of that I wanted showing, and maybe I was thinking I could do that if I had two blocks together and have them overlap, but I would have to plan that out before I did all of that. So maybe and maybe not. So in this case, I think I really like these colors with this grouping just because I need that contrast with the predominantly orange space there. I don't know. Let me know what you think. That's lots of options, I know, but describe for me what you think, or what you think I should do just completely differently. And then, of course, there's the question of how am I going to stitch this? What thread am I going to use? And my thinking at this point is that I want to do this with invisible thread and then use white on these, or do I want to use white on this and invisible thread on those? I think I'll do invisible on these, just because if there's any quirky as I'm doing the turning here, it will hide it better than if I use white. But I'm also thinking, I brought some batting up because I want to stuff the stitches, but I'm wondering if maybe I don't want to kind of stuff a couple of these. So I would take and cut a circle just a little bit smaller than this and maybe give that a try, add some dimension to it. So what's my decision here? I'm going to try stuffing this. No, we're going to stuff a different piece, but I will stuff this piece, but I'm going to do this in white or invisible. All right, I'm going to have to change thread a lot, but that's okay. Not a big deal. It's just threading invisible thread is that's a treat. All right, so I've decided I'm going to do white for these, and then these I will probably do with invisible, but we'll see. Maybe I'll try it with white. The yellow I will be stuffing, and let's see how they look compared to each other. If I were smart, of course, I would have done these with fusible interfacing. I can still do that with these and turn them around. This one probably not, because I'm going to have, well, I could cut a ring I'm going to get these down first and then we'll see. And this has to be underneath it when I do that. Since I have invisible thread, let me do that one first with invisible, and then I'll switch to white. Hopefully this way we can get a sampler in one piece where we try different stitches, different threads, etc. This piece I'm also going to have to cut this curve a little bit so I don't quite come to the edge on that, but that's no biggie. So invisible stitch, and then I'll do white for those, and probably just a zigzag just because it works. And many of you would have that. Most of you would have a zigzag stitch on your machines. I really have to get a new camera set up. I know I keep saying that, but it's getting serious now. So the invisible stitching is really, let's see if that will focus for me, quite invisible. I am using, oh, what do they call it? Not monofilament, polyfilament thread from Superior Threads. Let me show you what it looks like here. Monopoly, sorry. From Superior Threads, extra fine polyester. And you have to work, of course, with the, whatever they call that. Now, I like the poly, the invisible, but I also like the white. So I am now going to pad this one and then stitch it. I have been putting this, I did fusible web, double-sided fusible web on it. And for these two, I did not do that, but I did have stabilizer under it when I was stitching it. So I'm going to pad this. Won't use I will use stabilizer underneath it, but not a fusible web. And we'll see how that turns out. And I am going to stitch it in white, which we'll see how that goes. That's why we're doing this. I have stopped the stitching before I finished because I'm going to take it out, and I've decided I want invisible thread. This is just too much against that. I want it to float more, so I think I need to use invisible thread on this. So of course the circle got quite ratty when I ripped out the zigzags, so I went ahead and cut another circle, and I did use fusible web this time. Then I had cut the batting the same size as the circle, basically just kind of traced around it with my scissors, and then just trimmed off a little bit all the way around. The machine, of course, is not going to have any trouble stitching through it. I just don't want any of the batting hanging out. So there's just a little bit showing, which may or may not adhere to the fabric when I fuse things, but oops, wrong one. Let me try that again. So that one is going up here, and I will switch to invisible thread and take care of that. I like that much better with the invisible thread. It doesn't draw as much attention to it, and I don't mind drawing attention to the circle, but I don't want the stitching to draw the attention. And I want that green there, so I have cut another small green circle with fusible web. And I think I also want to, do I want to pad that one? I think I do. So I will do the same thing, cut a batting, and I'm using Warm and Natural White for the batting, and cut a circle just slightly smaller than that, and then stitch it around with invisible. And here is this finished piece. You will notice that when I pad the piece and then stitch around it, you are naturally going to have this kind of almost halo around it where the stitching is, because of course the stitching is going to flatten out that poofiness. Apparently I got some black thread under there. That's unfortunate. And I did not use stabilizer when I stitched these on. I think the batting sort of served that purpose. A little extra security, of course, would be to put some stabilizer behind it. When I did this circle, I shortened my stitch length because that makes it easier to get around this tighter curve that you have with a smaller circle. And I try to make it as even as I can by counting the number of times the needle hits the fabric. So every 4th stitch, I will raise the presser foot on my machine. It raises it a little bit on its own whenever I stop in the needle down position, and then rotate just a little bit to get me going around the circle again and again. 1, 2, 3, 4th one, I turn it a little bit. So I think that makes it more even than if I'm trying to steer it evenly as I go around, particularly on a small tight curve like this one. So that's the new one. The one we did originally, we had some pink, I don't know, over here, over there, don't remember where. We had a yellow, and I've run out of yellow circles except the really big one. And then we tried the orange, and we discovered that the fabric that I chose for the pearls, the boucles, let's call these the slubs in the yarn, depends on the predominant color of the fabric of this wild print. So on this piece, we discovered that that blends in too much for what I was doing. If you want it to blend in, then absolutely follow that. And then this might be the green. So it might look more like the same fabric. Same yarn or fibers in the yarn. So we'll have that, I guess, slubby look, that more of a boucle look with consistent fiber color. That's what I'm saying. That was a long way of saying it depends, huh? All right. So in this one, then we tucked one under, as Raymond suggested, and these different colors were from Michelle. So thank you for that. Now I want to do a dropped stitch block, which means that these pieces are going to be straighter. I don't want the loop in them. I just want them to be straighter. I'm still not going to have them be even. I don't want these sides to be parallel. I still want it to be a little funky, but they aren't going to be these dropped loops. So, you know, I was going to do it with this, because then it would be more of a, I don't know, of a piece, I guess, where this yarn would be the same. But I'm almost thinking design-wise, for the contrast, I might want to do these in these colors, these fabrics, and then have the slubs, the circles, be out of this fabric. I think I might give that a try. And I will pad these straight yarn pieces here, the dropped stitches. Well, actually, the stitch that's dropped drops down. You don't see it. That's just what's left of the grid. Anyway, sorry about that. Into the weeds. We don't need to go into the weeds with knitting and purling. We just did. So I'm going to cut a few strips of this and some padding for it and check back with you. Here's something I'm thinking about as I'm doing this. This is the piece we just finished, and both these backgrounds are vertical stripes. And I'm wondering if we wouldn't prefer to have further contrast by having this be horizontal. Sorry, I lost the pink circle somewhere. And then that be vertical. Is that going to be something we want? Different look. I don't think any one is right and one is wrong. But we're going to go ahead and do this on a vertical piece because that's what I've got. And I will get these stitched on, and I'll use invisible in this case because I'm lazy and it's on the machine. and then we'll talk about doing the circles. I wanted to pad these, didn't I? I'm going to pad the lightest ones and not pad these two, and then we can compare them since we're doing a sampler here. And here we are. These were all backed with fusible web. I've got stabilizer behind them both, and these two pieces were padded, these two were not. That's where we're at, and I have cut 3 circles out of the Purl fabric that we had used before to see how they are going to look. And again, it appears that having that yellow against that yellow blends it, and if that's the effect you want, then that's perfect. I don't want it to blend that way, so I'm thinking I might do something like this. And of course, I could also have tucked these under any one of those strips. I also want to try, though, what happens if in this case I use a black circle to contrast with things. Or maybe do that. Should be kind of interesting, especially if I decide to do something like that, where I've got eyeballs, I guess I would call it. Got to think of something else to call that. Stacked circles, that's what we'll call it. And I think I might kind of like that. I want a little bit of black coming through. I don't think I want a black and white stripe circle, even a smaller stripe, because again, that will pull the background forward, and I really want it to be the background. So let's pull this one up as well so we can see how we feel about the horizontal versus vertical. I'm just going to press that under because that is longer than I want, at least for the moment, visually. And then that up there, this needs to be by a pink. All right. So we have 2 different Purl sets with a hair hanging out there. Sorry, I'm a little flighty today, apparently. We've tried different things, padded, unpadded, print on plain, vertical, horizontal, white thread, invisible thread. And here are, sorry, odd things are starting to bother me. All right. And that is, I think it's kind of a fun combination, actually. And I'm not even minding this doubled circle thing. Do I have another? Not really. I guess I could do that. I would rather do this, though, because I've got the doubled circles on the bottom of both of these. So I think that has some possibilities. I think that will be the Purl section of our program finished. And I wanted to update you on a couple of things. One of them, let me pin these and put them aside. One of them is an update on one of the village pieces. And I did spend some time with that over the weekend, last weekend. And got it to a point where I'm now starting to think more about what I want it to look like in the end. How am I going to make a full piece out of it? I like it where it is now, and I'm satisfied with the progress, but I really want to take it further, and to do that, I'm going to, of course, have to figure out what I'm going to do. And that is not as easy as I originally thought, because I want it to be a larger piece. So let me put this aside and pull that in. So this is the village that had some of the extras. We added in slices and divided it into 4 patches, etc. Had some, this reminds me of old houses in London where they would hang over the street. They had to have street room to walk in the streets and I guess drive carts, but they wanted their houses larger, so they had them overhanging. And I'm really liking this very much. It's quite compact. The other one is longer, but I want it to be a larger piece. So originally I thought, well, I'll just have a border that's like wonky half-square triangles around it. I could do a striped, black and white striped border and then wonky half-square triangles. That's an option. And then I thought, well, what if I do more houses that are oriented, I guess, in the direction of the border. So on the side, it would be, the roofs would be over here, and on the side, they'd be over here. So you kind of go around. This is the center square, and then going around. I think if I were to do that, I would have wanted to turn these 180 degrees so that I had actually a 180 degree quilt. But since I have these all one direction, I'm thinking that I might do a couple of narrow pieces with just a couple of houses wide on each side, roofs going that way, and then a couple of pieces, maybe just one house tall, maybe 2, 1.5, I don't know, at the top and the bottom. So it's a one-directional piece all the way through. And I probably still would want some black and white stripe of some sort, probably inner border and maybe outer border, or maybe no border at all, just a striped binding. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm also contemplating if I want to maybe throw some circles in here, because I'm just a circle kind of gal, and I think I want them to be mostly solid or nearly solid. So I could do, say, this one. Oops. That could go, say, here or over here. That poor circle's getting pretty ragged. And add a little bit of, I've got a little bit of curve going on here, but there's an awful lot of straight line going on. So that's something I'm going to be thinking about. And let me know what you think. I've been resisting the idea of doing doorway window kinds of things because I don't want it to be that representational, but I kind of like the idea of having a circle, maybe just a couple, 3 circles on it, just as a little point of interest. I actually like that quite a bit there. And maybe not really big obvious circles, but just for a little bit of break from straight lines. So that's that. Let me know what you think, what I should do with that. And then I want to update you on the bungee, the funky pineapple, what did I call them? Funky pineapple geese piece that I'm doing. So that's up next. And here is the progress on the bungee quilt. I am doing wavy lines, sometimes straight, sometimes following the curve of the bungee lines. And at some point I decided that I wanted to alternate the wavy lines being fairly close together and then wider closer, etc., etc. So I think in some of these areas I will go back and put some more lines in. So somewhere around in here, I'm going to want lines closer. This I need to deal with. That's too far apart. Visually, when I stand back, you can see that that's just kind of glaring. So I need to do something in there. So I'm a little more than halfway finished with it. Pretty happy with the quilting and the results so far, aside from what I've just mentioned. I'm doing this on my domestic machine, and I kind of blew out my right shoulder. So wrangling this quilt top around while the sandwich around while I am quilting it in my domestic machine is a little tough on my shoulder. You know how it is. You don't really realize how much you use a part of your body until it hurts every time you use it. So this will be put on hold for a little while until I get my shoulder taken care of, which hopefully won't be too long. But so far, I'm pretty happy with that. And finally, I want to ask you a favor, your input for some things. Pardon the handheld camera, but I think that's the most effective way to do this. This is a bag that I made recently. This is designer by Annie, Byannie, and it's called the Catch-All 2.0 or Carry-All 2.0. Oh, that's terrible. I think it's Carry-All 2.0. And I have made this bag, which I love by Annie bags. I wouldn't suggest doing this one, say, as a first bag you ever make, but it is a really nice bag, well designed. And most of by Annie designs have zippers on them, somewhere or other. If you are wary of zippers, don't let that keep you from doing by Annie bags. Anyway, so this I am using as my go bag for retreats and classes, and I want to have everything in here that I would need short of particular pattern fabric and any specialty rulers I might need. But any of the incidental stuff that I might need, I want to be able to just have it in this bag and grab it and go. So I've put some things in here. I have some more things that I want to put in, and I would love your input on what I should have in here. So I have my klutz glove over here. I don't even know what I put in this zipper pouch here. Oh, Band-Aids and antiseptic cream. Just because, you know, you never know. And I can include some comfort items. I have what I call comfort items. In one pocket here, I have some Kleenex, some allergy medicine kinds of things. In one pocket, this has so many pockets, it's wonderful. I've got pins in one pocket. I've got a couple different kinds of scissors in pockets. I've got, I think, yes, 2 different sizes of rotary cutters, tiny mat, a couple of small rulers. Down here, I've got tiny turners for turning tubes, I guess is the best way to say it. I've got various markers, extra set of eyeglasses. Oh, there's more pins there. I have a purple thing, which I seldom use, but I know some people do, so I could have that handy. There's a seam ripper in there. I want to also put in a bodkin. This is the handiest darn thing, you know, if you have to pull elastic or something through. This is really handy. I just got one. I don't know why I've been resisting all this time. But I also need a way to hold those things without them getting lost. These pockets, in order for them to be able to expand a lot, they aren't sewed at the bottom. They're loose at the bottom, and they're gusseted, so they'll expand. I mean, they'd hold a water bottle or whatever. Some people talk about using canning jars, but those are pretty heavy, so it could be, I don't know, like a plastic cup or something to put in there. So lots of pockets, Very cool. So what do you like to absolutely have on hand, even if you don't use it every minute of a retreat or class? What do you like to have that you think I should include in my go bag? And I guess that's it for today. I really appreciate you spending some time with me. I appreciate your comments and your input, and most especially for just spending time with me while I sew and quilt. I hope to see you next week. I'm not quite sure what we'll do. Actually, I kind of do know what I want to do. And then I also want to talk a little bit with you at some point, or quite a bit with you, about how I'm using photos of streetscapes and architectural features as inspiration for designs. So I guess that's it. I hope I will see you next week. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.